The bridge of the Freedom's Call hummed with quiet activity. Captain Jake Morrison stood near the main viewing screen, watching stars drift past as his ship moved through space. He had been on patrol for 3 weeks now, and nothing interesting had happened. That was usually good news in space. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Danny Pierce said from the communication station. He was young, only 24, but he was good at his job. His fingers moved quickly across the control panel as he tried to clean up the signal. Jake walked over to Danny's station and looked at the display. Lines of code scrolled across the screen, mixed with static and broken sounds. "What is it?" "It's a distress call, sir. Someone is asking for help. The signal is weak, but it's definitely in Galactic Standard Language." Danny adjusted the controls again. "I think it's coming from the Kethrol system, about 6 hours away at full speed." Lisa Chen, the first officer, stepped closer to listen. She was tall and calm, always thinking before she spoke. "Can you tell what they're saying?" Danny shook his head. "Most of it is broken up, but I can hear words like help, attack, and urgent. Someone is in serious trouble." Jake felt his chest tighten. A distress call meant people were dying, but responding to it meant taking a risk. The Freedom's Call was a human ship, and humans were still new to the Galactic Coalition. Most alien species didn't trust them yet. They called Earth a death world and said humans were too dangerous. "Lisa, what do you think?" Jake asked. Lisa crossed her arms and stared at the screen. "If someone sent a distress signal, they need help. We're the closest ship. That makes it our responsibility." Jake nodded slowly. She was right. It didn't matter if other species trusted humans or not. If people needed help, humans should answer. That was the right thing to do. "Danny, send out a message on all Coalition frequencies. Tell them we're responding to a distress call in the Kethrol system. Ask if any other ships are nearby and can assist." Jake turned to the pilot. "Change course. Take us to that system, maximum speed." The ship's engines roared louder as the Freedom's Call turned and accelerated. Jake sat down in his command chair and opened the ship-wide communication channel. "All hands, this is the captain. We're responding to a distress call. It could be dangerous. Everyone needs to be ready for combat. Morrison out." Down in engineering, Marcus Blake heard the announcement and grinned. He was a big man with rough hands and a love for machines. He immediately started checking the ship's reactor and weapon systems. If there was going to be a fight, he would make sure the ship was ready. In the medical bay, Dr. Helen Grant started preparing for casualties. She organized medical supplies and made sure all the equipment was working. Helen had been a doctor for 15 years, and she knew what battle injuries looked like. She hoped she wouldn't need any of this, but she prepared anyway. 30 minutes later, Danny looked up from his station with surprise on his face. "Captain, we have responses. 2 human ships are changing course to help us, the Swift Justice and the Iron Dawn." Jake felt relieved. The Swift Justice was a destroyer commanded by Nicole Hayes. She was known for being smart and aggressive in combat. The Iron Dawn was smaller, a frigate under Peter Zhang. Both were good officers with experienced crews. "Good. Send them our course and speed. We'll meet them at the edge of the Kethrol system." Jake looked at Lisa. "What do we know about the Kethrol?" Lisa pulled up information on her screen. "They're insectoid traders. Very peaceful people. They're famous for making beautiful crystal art. Their homeworld is a garden world with light gravity. They have never fought a war." "So they have no military?" Jake said quietly. "None. They rely on Coalition protection. If someone is attacking them, they have no way to defend themselves." The hours passed slowly as the 3 human ships raced through space. Jake reviewed tactical data and checked weapon systems. The Freedom's Call was a battleship, heavily armed but not very fast. The Swift Justice was faster but had lighter armor. The Iron Dawn was the smallest, designed for quick attacks and reconnaissance. Finally, the ships reached the edge of the Kethrol system. Jake ordered the ship to drop out of faster-than-light travel. The main screen flickered and then showed normal space again. What Jake saw made his blood run cold. The Kethrol system was full of debris and fire. Space stations that once held thousands of people were broken apart, pieces spinning slowly through the void. Ships floated dead in space, their hulls torn open, and everywhere there were strange vessels attacking anything that still moved. "What are those things?" Lisa whispered. The enemy ships didn't look like any design Jake had ever seen. They were huge, bigger than any human battleship. Their hulls looked organic, like they had been grown instead of built. The surface pulsed with strange colors and patterns. Weapons emerged from openings in the hull and fired beams of green energy that ate through metal like acid. "I'm counting at least 40 enemy vessels," Danny said, his voice shaking slightly. "And, Captain, I'm picking up life signs from some of the Kethrol stations. There are still survivors." Jake's mind raced. 40 enemy ships against 3 human vessels. The math was simple and brutal. They couldn't win this fight. If they went in, they would probably die. But there were survivors. Living people trapped in damaged stations waiting to die. If the human ships ran away, those people would have no hope. Jake looked at Lisa. She met his eyes and nodded once. She knew what he was thinking, and she agreed. "Danny, open a channel to the Swift Justice and Iron Dawn." Jake waited until the light turned green, showing the channel was open. "This is Morrison. You can all see what we're facing. I'm going in to help those survivors. I won't order anyone to follow me. This is volunteer only. If you want to turn back, I'll understand. No one will think less of you." There was a moment of silence. Then Nicole Hayes' voice came through the speakers, calm and steady. "Freedom's Call, this is Swift Justice. We didn't come all this way to turn around now. We're with you." Peter Zhang spoke next. "Iron Dawn standing by. Let's show these things what happens when they mess with the wrong species." Jake felt pride swell in his chest. These were the people he served with. These were humans, Deathworlders from a violent planet, and they chose to fight for strangers. All ships. Battle stations. Charge weapons and prepare for combat. Jake leaned forward in his chair, watching the enemy vessels on the screen. "Target the ships closest to the surviving stations. We're going to get those people out." The Freedom's Call surged forward, its engines burning bright. The Swift Justice and Iron Dawn followed, 3 human ships diving into an impossible battle. On the damaged Kethrol station, the survivors watched their sensors in confusion. 3 unknown ships were approaching, coming straight toward the enemy fleet. The Kethrol didn't understand. Why would anyone come here? This was death. This was the end, but the humans came anyway. The Freedom's Call raced toward the enemy fleet with its weapons charging. Jake watched the tactical display as distances closed rapidly. The enemy ships were massive, each one 3 times the size of his battleship. But size didn't always win battles. "Weapons range in 30 seconds, Lisa announced. Her hands moved across her console, coordinating targeting data between all 3 human ships. "All ships, focus fire on the nearest target. Let's see what these things are made of." Jake gripped the arms of his chair. "Fire when ready!" The Freedom's Call shuddered as its main railguns opened fire. Massive metal slugs shot through space at incredible speeds. They hit the nearest enemy vessel and punched straight through its organic hull. Green fluid sprayed from the wounds like blood. The Swift Justice and Iron Dawn added their weapons to the attack. Missiles streaked across space and laser beams cut through the darkness. The enemy ship jerked and twisted as explosions rippled across its surface. Within seconds, it broke apart and died, direct hit. "Enemy vessel destroyed." Danny shouted with excitement in his voice, but the celebration was short. The other enemy ships turned toward the human fleet. Their weapons powered up, and green energy beams lanced out across space. The Freedom's Call's shields flashed as the first hits landed. "Shields holding at 80%, Lisa reported. "But those weapons are strong. We can't take many hits." Nicole Hayes' voice came over the communication channel. "Swift Justice to all ships. I'm seeing a pattern in their attack. They focus on one target at a time. If we stay spread out and keep moving, we can avoid concentrated fire." "Good thinking," Jake replied. "All ships maintain spacing. Use evasive maneuvers. Target the ships closest to the Kethrol station." The 3 human ships split apart and attacked from different angles. The Swift Justice darted between enemy vessels, firing missiles at close range before spinning away. The Iron Dawn used its smaller size to slip through gaps in the enemy formation, targeting weapon ports and causing critical damage. The Freedom's Call plowed forward like a battering ram. Marcus Blake pushed the engines past their normal limits, squeezing every bit of speed and power from the reactor. The ship groaned under the strain, but it held together. "Captain, I'm picking up transmissions from the Kethrol station," Danny said. He looked confused as he listened. "They're asking who we are. They're warning us to run away before it's too late." "Tell them we're humans from Earth and we're here to help," Jake ordered. "And tell them to get everyone to the center of their station, away from the outer hull." Down in the medical bay, Helen Grant braced herself as the ship rocked from another impact. Alerts flashed on her screen showing injuries throughout the ship. 3 crew members were hurt on Deck 7, where an enemy beam had burned through the hull. She grabbed her medical kit and ran toward the damaged section. The battle intensified. More enemy ships closed in, surrounding the human fleet. Their organic hulls pulsed with strange light as they coordinated their attacks. Green energy beams crisscrossed space, forcing the human ships to dodge constantly. The Iron Dawn took a direct hit to its engine section. Alarms blared as the small frigate's faster-than-light drive shut down, damaged beyond quick repair. Peter Jang's voice came through the speakers, strained but steady. Iron Dawn to fleet. We've lost main engines. We can still fight but can't maneuver well. Understood, Jake replied. He made a quick decision. Swift Justice, screen the Iron Dawn. Keep enemies off her while she makes repairs. Freedom's Call will continue the attack. Nicole Hayes brought her destroyer around to protect the damaged frigate. Her weapons never stopped firing, creating a wall of explosive force that kept enemy ships at a distance. But it meant 2 of the 3 human ships were now defensive rather than offensive. Jake watched the tactical display and felt frustration building. For every enemy ship they destroyed, 2 more appeared. The enemy had unlimited numbers, while every hit the humans took reduced their fighting capability. This wasn't a battle they could win. It was simply a matter of how long they could last. "Captain, I've got something," Danny said urgently. He pulled up data on the main screen. "I've been analyzing the enemy transmissions and comparing them to coalition records. These ships match descriptions from 17 previous incidents. 17 different fleets responded to distress calls just like ours. None of them survived." Lisa turned to look at Jake, her face pale. "It's a trap. The distress signal wasn't from this battle. It's been repeating for weeks. Everyone who came to help was killed." Jake felt ice in his stomach. They hadn't come to rescue anyone. They had come to die in a trap designed to lure in responders. The enemy had been doing this across multiple systems, killing everyone who tried to help. "So those Kethril survivors we detected," Jake said slowly, "they're the bait. They're kept alive so their life signs will draw more victims." "That's what it looks like, sir." Jake stared at the screen, watching enemy ships continue their coordinated assault. He thought about running. The Freedom's Call could probably escape if they abandoned the Iron Dawn and used the Swift Justice as a rear guard. Some of them might make it home, but that would mean leaving those Kethril survivors to die. It would mean Peter Jang and his crew on the Iron Dawn would be killed, and it would mean teaching the enemy that humans could be scared away. "New plan," Jake announced. "We're not running. All ships will form a defensive sphere around the Kethril station. We're going to protect those survivors with everything we have." There was silence on the communication channel for a moment. Then Nicole Hayes spoke, acknowledged. "Swift Justice moving into position." Peter Jang's voice followed. "Iron Dawn ready." "It's been an honor serving with you, Captain." "The honor is mine," Jake replied. He opened the ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the captain." "I won't lie to you. We're not getting out of this. The enemy has us outnumbered and trapped. But there are 3,000 civilians on that station who will die if we leave. So we're going to make a stand. We're going to show these things that humans don't abandon people in need. We're going to make them pay for every meter of space they take. Battle stations, everyone. Let's make this count." The 3 human ships moved into formation around the Kethril station. They linked their defensive shields, creating a protective barrier. The enemy fleet gathered for a massive assault. More than 40 ships preparing to crush the human defense. Inside the Kethril station, the survivors watched their sensors in disbelief. The humans weren't running. They were staying to protect strangers, even though it meant certain death. The Kethril didn't understand this behavior. Their peaceful species had never seen anything like it. But they were about to witness what it meant to fight alongside Deathworlders. The enemy fleet attacked with overwhelming force, and the real battle began. The enemy ships came from every direction at once. Green energy beams cut through space like deadly rain. The human ships' shields flashed constantly as they absorbed hit after hit. Inside the Freedom's Call, the lights flickered and alarms sounded throughout the ship. "Shields down to 40%, Lisa reported. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. "We're taking heavy damage to sections 4 through 7. Keep redirecting power to the shields facing the station," Jake ordered. "As long as they're shooting at us, they're not shooting at the survivors." The Swift Justice fought like a cornered animal. Nicole Hayes pushed her ship through impossible maneuvers, dodging beams by meters while firing missiles at any enemy vessel that got close. Her destroyer had already taken serious damage, with hull breaches in 3 sections and half her weapons offline. "This is haze to all ships." Nicole's voice came through the speakers. "I've counted 47 enemy vessels. They're coordinating their attacks, hitting us in waves. My ship can't take much more." As if responding to her words, 5 enemy ships focused their fire on the Swift Justice. The destroyer's shields collapsed under the assault. Energy beams burned through armor and into the ship's interior. Explosions rippled across the hull. "Hayes, get your people to the escape pods!" Jake shouted into the communicator. "Negative, Freedom's call. We still have weapons. We're still in this fight." Nicole's voice was strained but determined. "But I'm reading a reactor overload. I've got maybe 3 minutes before containment fails." Jake understood immediately what she was planning. If the reactor was going to explode anyway, she could choose where and when. It could be a weapon instead of just an accident. "Captain Zhang, pull the Iron Dawn back," Nicole continued. "Jake, you need to angle your shields. This is going to be big." "Nicole, wait," Jake started to say, but she cut him off. "No time for debate, Captain. There are 5 enemy ships clustered around me. I can take them all out. Tell my family I love them." There was a pause. "All Swift Justice crew, abandon ship immediately. That's an order. You have 90 seconds. The Swift Justice turned toward the cluster of enemy vessels and accelerated on its damaged engines. Escape pods shot out from the sides of the ship as the crew evacuated. But Nicole stayed on the bridge, keeping the ship on course. Jake watched helplessly as the destroyer rammed into the center of the enemy formation. For a moment nothing happened. Then the Swift Justice's reactor went critical. The explosion was like a small sun being born. It expanded outward in a sphere of white-hot plasma that consumed everything nearby. When the light faded, the Swift Justice was gone. So were 5 enemy ships, with 3 more badly damaged and drifting helplessly. "Reading multiple escape pods," Danny said quietly. 63 survivors from the Swift Justice. But Commander Hayes went down with her ship. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. Nicole Hayes had been a good officer and a good person. Now she was gone, another name on the list of people who died protecting others. He pushed the grief aside. There would be time to mourn later if any of them survived. "Iron Dawn, can you recover those escape pods?" Jake asked. "Negative," Peter Zhang replied. "We're too damaged. Our tractor beams are offline." Jake looked at the tactical display. The enemy ships were regrouping, preparing for another assault. There were still more than 30 of them, and now the humans only had 2 ships. The math was getting worse. "Danny, broadcast a message to those escape pods. Tell them to stay low and quiet. If we survive this, we'll come back for them." Jake took a deep breath. "Marcus, how's our reactor?" Marcus Blake's voice came through from engineering. "Holding steady at 90%, but Captain, I could overload it just like Hayes did. Take out a bunch of these things before they kill us anyway." "Not yet. As long as we can still fight, we keep fighting." Jake turned to Lisa. "Damage report. We've lost main railguns. Missiles are down to 30%. Secondary lasers still operational. Shields at 20% and falling. Life support is failing in sections 8 through 12. We have 19 dead and 43 wounded." Lisa met his eyes. "We're not going to last much longer, Jake." It was the first time she had used his first name on duty. That told him how bad things really were. The Iron Dawn was in worse shape. The small frigate had taken hit after hit while defending the Swift Justice earlier. Now it was barely moving, just spinning slowly in space with most of its systems dead. But Peter Zhang and his crew kept firing every weapon they had left. "Captain Morrison, this is Lieutenant Commander Zhang." Peter's voice was weak. "My ship is dead. We're on backup power only. But I've got an idea. My crew has been analyzing these enemy ships. Their organic sections are vulnerable to heat. The Swift Justice's explosion damaged them because of the thermal energy, not just the blast." "What are you suggesting?" Jake asked. "Let me use my remaining fuel to create a thermal weapon. I can vent the ship's reactor coolant and ignite it. It won't be as big as Hayes' explosion, but the heat should damage every enemy ship within a kilometer. Give you a chance to hit them while they're hurting." "Peter, that will kill you and your crew," Jake said. "We're already dead, Captain. We just haven't stopped moving yet. Let us make it mean something." Peter paused. My crew agrees. We all volunteer. Jake felt anger and grief mixing in his chest. These were good people, brave people, and they were all going to die in this forgotten system far from home. But Peter was right. If the Iron Dawn's sacrifice could hurt the enemy, it might give the Freedom's Call a chance to do more damage before the end. Understood, Iron Dawn. May you find peace among the stars. Thank you, sir. Iron Dawn out. Small frigate used its last bit of maneuvering power to drift toward a cluster of enemy ships. Peter Jung and his crew opened all the ship's vents and ignited the reactor coolant. The Iron Dawn became a fireball, not explosive but burning with incredible heat. The flames washed over nearby enemy vessels and their organic hulls began to cook and peel away. 3 enemy ships died immediately. 5 more were badly damaged, their weapons offline and their hulls blackened. The rest of the enemy fleet pulled back slightly, apparently reconsidering their approach. Jake used the moment to attack. The Freedom's Call fired every remaining weapon at the damaged enemy ships. Laser beams cut through weakened hulls. Missiles found their targets and exploded. Within minutes, all 5 wounded enemy vessels were destroyed. But it wasn't enough. More than 20 enemy ships remained, and now the Freedom's Call stood alone. No allies. No reinforcements. Just one damaged human battleship against an enemy that had already killed 2 coalition fleets. Captain, they're surrounding us, Lisa said. This is it. Jake nodded slowly. Marcus, prepare to overload the reactor on my command. If we're going down, we're taking as many of them with us as we can. Ready when you are, Captain. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was tired, bloodied, but still at their stations. They had done everything possible and more. Now it was time for the final act. All hands brace for impact. It's been an honor. The enemy fleet moved in for the kill. The enemy ships closed in around the Freedom's Call like predators circling wounded prey. Their organic hulls pulsed with strange colors as they prepared to fire. Jake counted 23 vessels on his tactical display, each one positioning itself for a killing shot. Marcus, stand by on reactor overload, Jake said quietly. His hand hovered over the command console, ready to give the final order. Standing by, Captain. When you give the word, we'll go out with a bang. Helen Grant climbed onto the bridge, her medical uniform torn and stained with blood. She had abandoned the medical bay when that section lost life support. She looked around at the crew and took a position at an empty station, ready to help however she could in these final moments. The enemy ships fired simultaneously. More than 100 energy beams converged on the Freedom's Call from every direction. The ship's remaining shields lasted less than a second before collapsing completely. The beams cut into the hull, burning through armor and into the ship's interior. The Freedom's Call shuddered violently. Explosions ripped through multiple decks. The lights went out, replaced by emergency red lighting that made everything look like a nightmare. Jake was thrown from his chair and hit the deck hard. His ears rang from the blast. Hull breaches on all decks, Lisa shouted over the noise of alarms. Sections 9 through 15 are open to space. We've lost weapons control. Life support is failing everywhere. Jake pulled himself back into his chair. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead, but he ignored it. Marcus, now. Overload the reactor. Initiating overload sequence, Marcus replied. His voice was steady despite knowing he was about to die. 30 seconds to critical mass. Danny looked up from his console, his face pale. Captain, the Kethril are transmitting. They're thanking us. They say they'll remember our names. Jake felt a strange sense of peace wash over him. They had failed to save themselves, but they had protected those 3,000 civilians. That had to count for something. Humans might be Deathworlders from a violent planet, but they had shown the galaxy what they really were. Protectors. All hands. This is the captain, Jake said over the ship-wide channel, though he didn't know how many people were still alive to hear him. You have all fought with courage and honor. You've made Earth proud. You've shown the galaxy what humanity stands for. Whatever comes next, know that you were the best crew I could have asked for. The reactor countdown reached 10 seconds. Jake looked at Lisa and she smiled at him sadly. They had served together for 5 years, been through countless missions, and now they would end their journey together. 5 seconds. The enemy ships moved even closer, apparently wanting to make sure the Freedom's Call was completely destroyed. 3 seconds. Jake thought about Earth, green and blue in space. He thought about his wife Amanda waiting for him to come home. He hoped she would understand why he had made these choices. 1 second, the reactor went critical. The containment field collapsed and unimaginable energy was released all at once. The Freedom's call became brighter than the system's star for a brief moment. The explosion expanded outward at incredible speed, consuming everything nearby. The electromagnetic pulse from the explosion hit the nearest enemy ships first, frying their organic nervous systems and shutting down their weapons. Then the shockwave arrived, a wall of force that tore through space. 5 enemy ships were caught directly in the blast and were simply erased from existence. 9 more were heavily damaged, their hulls cracked open and their systems failing. The remaining enemy vessels pulled back rapidly, apparently shocked by the violence of the human ship's death. They regrouped at a safe distance and seemed to reconsider their strategy. For the first time in their campaign across this sector, the enemy had encountered prey that fought back hard enough to make victory costly. After a long moment, the enemy fleet began to withdraw. They left the system slowly, leaving behind wreckage and destruction. Whatever intelligence controlled those ships had decided that continuing the attack wasn't worth more losses. Inside the Kethrol station, the survivors emerged from their emergency shelters. They moved through damaged corridors to reach the observation areas. Through the transparent walls, they could see the aftermath of the battle. Debris floated everywhere. Escape pods from the Swift Justice drifted in space, their occupants still alive but stranded. Elder Veshka, the senior administrator of the station, stood at the window and stared at the wreckage. His insectoid body trembled as he tried to process what he had witnessed. 3 ships had come to help. 3 ships full of humans who didn't even know the Kethrol, and all 3 had died protecting strangers. Why? Veshka whispered to himself. Why would they do this? A younger Kethrol assistant approached him. Elder, our long-range communications are damaged but functioning. Should we send a message to Coalition Command? Yes, immediately. Veshka turned from the window. Send them everything. All sensor data from the battle. Tell them about the enemy fleet. Tell them about the humans who came to help us. His voice became stronger. Tell them that 3 human ships saved 3,000 Kethrol lives. Tell them that humans died for people they had never met. The message was sent within the hour, transmitted across space at faster than light speeds. It contained detailed sensor logs showing every moment of the battle, from the humans' arrival to their final sacrifice. It included the full count of enemy vessels and their capabilities. And it included Veshka's personal testimony about what the humans had done. The message reached Coalition Central 2 hours later. It was marked with the highest priority code, ensuring it went directly to the senior leadership. Fleet Admiral Koresh, a reptilian Saurian who commanded Coalition forces in the sector, received the message first. Koresh was old by his species standards, with scales that had faded to a pale gray. He had served in the Coalition military for 60 years and had seen countless battles. But as he reviewed the sensor logs from the Kethrol system, he felt something he rarely experienced: genuine surprise. The humans had performed a textbook last stand. They had protected the station with overlapping defensive fields. They had used their ships as weapons when conventional tactics failed. They had fought with precision and determination until the very end. And they had done all of this for a species that most humans had probably never heard of. Koresh watched the sensor log showing the Freedom's Call's final explosion. The tactical data showed how the blast had damaged or destroyed 14 enemy vessels. The humans had turned their death into a weapon that hurt the enemy badly enough to make them retreat. Remarkable, Koresh said quietly to himself. Absolutely remarkable. He immediately compiled a report and sent it to the full Coalition Council. But he also sent a separate, encrypted message to Earth's Unified Defense Command. In it, he included the complete sensor logs and a personal note. The note was brief. Your people died with honor protecting strangers. The Coalition owes humanity a debt. I hope we prove worthy of the price you paid. On Earth, the message arrived at military headquarters in Geneva. Admiral Carmen Rodriguez, commander of the Unified Defense Forces, read Koresh's message 3 times before calling an emergency meeting. She pulled up the sensor logs and watched the battle unfold on her screens. 473 humans had died in the Kethrol system. 473 people who would never come home. She would have to notify their families, explain that their loved ones had died fighting for aliens in a system most people couldn't even find on a map. Rodriguez felt anger building in her chest, not at the humans who had fought. They had done what they thought was right, but at the galaxy that had welcomed humanity with suspicion and fear, then let human soldiers die protecting people who didn't even trust them. She sent orders to recover the 63 survivors from the Swift Justice's escape pods. Then she called her senior staff together to decide how humanity would respond to this tragedy. The debate about Earth's role in the galaxy was about to begin. 6 months passed since the battle at the Kethrel system. The galaxy had changed in small but important ways. The Kethrel built a memorial on their homeworld for the fallen humans. It was made from their finest crystal, designed to catch the light of their sun. When the light passed through the crystal, it displayed the names of all 473 humans who had died protecting them. The memorial could be seen from orbit, a massive structure that sparkled like a star on the planet's surface. Every Kethrel child learned the names. Every Kethrel adult made a pilgrimage at least once to stand before it and remember. Elder Veshka visited the memorial every day. He would stand there for hours, reading the names over and over. Jake Morrison, Nicole Hayes, Peter Zhang, Lisa Chen, Marcus Blake, Helen Grant, Danny Pierce. He memorized them all, feeling it was the least he could do for the people who had saved his life. On Earth, the reaction to the deaths was complicated. Memorial services were held in every major city. The families of the fallen received full military honors, but there was also anger and political debate. Many humans felt their people had died for nothing, protecting aliens who had never trusted humanity in the first place. Amanda Morrison, Jake's wife, became one of the most vocal people in the discussion. She appeared on news programs and spoke to government committees. Her message was always the same. Jake had believed in protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, regardless of politics or prejudice. His death had to mean something more than just another casualty in space. Others disagreed. Nicole Hayes' father, a retired general named Gregory Hayes, took the opposite view. He said publicly that the coalition had let his daughter die in a trap. They were too afraid to face themselves. He demanded that Earth withdraw from the coalition entirely and focus on protecting only human interests. The debate raged for months. Earth's government was divided. Some wanted isolation and independence. Others wanted to honor the sacrifice by continuing to engage with the galactic community. The question became about more than just military policy. It was about who humans wanted to be as a species. Meanwhile, the enemy that had killed the human ships continued its attacks. The coalition started calling them the Harvesters, based on the way they seemed to harvest ships and stations for unknown purposes. 7 more systems went dark over the following months. The coalition sent their best warships to engage the Harvesters each time. The results were always the same: complete defeat. Fleet Admiral Koresh studied every battle report and every sensor log. He noticed something important. The Harvesters had been winning easily against every coalition force except the humans. The Freedom's Call and its companion ships had actually hurt the enemy badly enough to make them retreat. That had never happened before. Koresh realized the humans had discovered something crucial in their final battle. The Harvesters' organic components were vulnerable to thermal weapons and sustained kinetic bombardment, but more than that, the humans had fought with an aggressive tactical style that no other coalition species used. They accepted casualties and took risks that other species considered insane. Koresh proposed something controversial to the Coalition Council. He wanted Earth to send a battle group to join coalition forces in hunting the Harvesters. The proposal caused immediate outrage from multiple species. They argued that humans were too dangerous to have a large military presence in coalition space. The proposal also angered many humans. Why should Earth send more people to die for species that didn't trust them or appreciate their sacrifices? Why should human soldiers risk their lives again when the first attempt had resulted in complete loss? Admiral Rodriguez faced the difficult decision. She was a veteran military officer who had seen combat in the early days of human space colonization. She understood both the cost of war and the importance of standing for principles. She spent days reviewing the sensor logs from the Kethrel battle and consulting with her advisors. Finally, Rodriguez made her decision. She called a press conference that was broadcast across Earth and to coalition space. Reporters filled the room. Cameras focused on her as she approached the podium. "I've spent a lot of time thinking about Captain Morrison and his crews," Rodriguez began. Her voice was steady and clear. "I've read their service records. I've talked to their families. I've watched the sensor logs of their final battle. And I've come to understand something important about what happened. She paused and looked directly at the cameras. Those people didn't ask permission before they responded to that distress call. They didn't debate whether the Kethral deserved saving. They didn't calculate the political benefits of their actions. They simply saw people in danger and went to help, because that's what humans do. That's who we are. The room was completely silent as she continued. Some people say we should withdraw from the coalition. They say we shouldn't risk more lives for species that fear us. But that would dishonor everything Morrison and his people died for. They showed the galaxy that humans are more than just violent Deathworlders. They showed that we're protectors. Rodriguez's voice grew stronger. Therefore, I'm announcing that Earth will send the second battle group to join coalition forces. 15 ships under my personal command. Our mission will be to hunt down and destroy the Harvesters. We will finish what Captain Morrison started. The announcement caused immediate reactions across Earth and the coalition. Support and opposition were both fierce, but Rodriguez had made her decision, and the military began preparations immediately. On the Kethral homeworld, Veshka heard the news while standing at the memorial. Light passed through the crystal, displaying human names against the sky. He spoke softly, even though no one else was nearby to hear him. They're coming again. Your people are coming to fight for strangers once more. Perhaps that's what makes them Deathworlders. Not that they come from a world of death, but that they refuse to let death have the final word. The second battle group assembled in Earth orbit over the following weeks. 15 warships, larger and more heavily armed than the vessels that had died at Kethral. The crews were all volunteers who knew the risks. They had read about Morrison, Hayes, and Zhang. They knew what they were flying into. Admiral Rodriguez took command from the battleship Vengeance, a massive vessel bristling with weapons. As the fleet prepared to depart, she recorded a final message to be sent to all coalition forces and to the Harvesters, if they could receive it. This is Admiral Carmen Rodriguez of Earth's second battle group. We are departing for the frontier sectors to engage the hostile force known as the Harvesters. To all coalition species, we come not as conquerors but as protectors. We will stand with you against this threat. To the Harvesters, you made a mistake when you killed the Freedom's Call. You showed humanity what we're fighting against. You taught us your weaknesses. And now we're coming for you. She paused, then added one final line. Captain Morrison and his crews are watching. We will not fail them. We will not let their sacrifice be meaningless. This is Admiral Rodriguez. Vengeance out. The second battle group activated their faster-than-light drives and vanished from Earth orbit, heading toward the frontier sectors where the Harvesters waited. The fleet moved through space like an arrow aimed at the heart of the enemy, carrying with it humanity's determination and rage. In the emptiness of space near the Kethral system, wreckage from the Freedom's Call still drifted in orbit. Pieces of hull with scorched paint, fragments of equipment, silent monuments to a battle fought and lost. But those pieces carried a message that the Harvesters would soon learn. You could kill humans. You could destroy their ships. You could win the battle, but humanity would remember. Humanity would learn, and humanity would come back stronger, angrier, and determined to make you pay for every drop of blood spilled. The Harvesters had wanted to hunt Deathworlders. Now they would discover what it meant when the Deathworlders started hunting back. Far from Earth, in the darkness between stars, the enemy fleet detected the approaching human vessels. They prepared their trap, confident in their superior numbers and their proven tactics. They had destroyed human ships before. They would do it again. But the Harvesters didn't understand one crucial thing about humanity. Humans learned from their mistakes, and they never ever forgot their fallen.